Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen again. You're on Global TV Talk Show, globalbusinessnews.net. Google Analytics, if we can believe their algorithms and what they're doing, and I don't know if we have any choice, but they say that 1.2 million reader page views have been on our sites, headed up by globalbusinessnews.net and all the other pages, including Global TV Talk Show. 1.2 million plus since '03, when we set up the sites. And at that time, we didn't know what we were doing, and I'm not sure we do now, but we're pretty good in front of the camera, so we'll just go forward and innovate as we go along. So Google Analytics has been tracking us since all that time, and when we were forced to start Global TV Talk Show in April of 2020, because our live conference business crashed and burned as a result of the pandemic and shutdowns, producer Paul Johnston and I have produced almost 200 broadcasts. I'll get that official number someday. And we're growing between now and Christmas. Well, today is May 25, 2021. And between now and Christmas coming up, the objective is to produce at least 100 more broadcasts. It sounds daunting, but it's actually quite manageable if we have the quality people like we do today. Let's welcome Vicki Znavor. Would you please correct how I pronounce your name?
I sure will, Ed. It's Znavor. Nice
Znavor.
to be with you. Yes, nice to be with you again.
Thank you very much. So I want you to hold up your book.
Sure.
And then we'll get into a deep dive in just a minute. So Authenticity Reawakened. So in your own words, Vicki, as the author and creator, and a long-time Chief Human Resource Officer for a financial institution in Chicago area. Why Reawakened?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you asked that question, Ed, because I believe, and I've seen it over and over again in my lifetime, and certainly others' lifetimes, that because we change so much in our lifetime, we constantly have to check in with ourselves to see what really matters to us. You know, when you're in your 20s, most of us are in that phase where we're acquiring things and we're just busy concentrating on doing well at work and making our mark in the world and, you know, paying off college debts and things like that. That who we are then, that's what the focus is. That's what our real authentic self is busy, you know, consumed with. But as we get older and we navigate this lifetime and we experience all that we experience, who we are changes. And so this reawakening is checking in with yourself, saying, who am I now? Looking in the mirror, Who am I? What really matters to me? Am I showing up in the way that really matters to me now? And, again, it's happened to me over and over. And I'm sure if you were to reflect on this, Ed, you would say the same is absolutely true for you.
Yeah, I've been reinventing many times. In fact, like a molting frog or something. Anyway, not a toad, but a frog. Uh, so contrast how you feel and what you're doing today
Mhm.
with when you were running HR for a large bank, financial institution. Uh, I'm sure you're the same personality, but
Yeah.
things are different. The world is different.
Yeah, things are definitely different. And yes, I am the same personality. I would say how I show up now is absolutely, I think more deliberate. I think I have more time to be more deliberate now. I certainly sleep better, and that's good. But I think at the core of what was really important to me, I never really chased a title or a level. And later in my career, I never chased a salary either, but certainly earlier I did. But what I believe is true is at the heart of my leadership was always this underlying care for other people. And it became increasingly louder as I got older and progressed through my career because I was in a position to change someone's life. Where earlier in the career, not so much. But this really, thinking about how do I show up as a leader for other people? Leaders really do bring others up. And that's the job of a leader, is really to have people that follow you, but they follow you because they believe in what you're talking about. They believe in your vision, and they know that there's something really good in it for them. So that was, a hallmark of my working as a CHRO, but then as a new author. What I care about now is the parts that I could take with me, take forward, are really, how do I help other people think about what parts of them are most important to show up in the world with? How do they overcome obstacles to their career growth? How do we talk about some of the challenges that we have in the workforce in a healthy and productive way? And how do I reach them doing that? And I'm really learning all of I was always a social media user, but now being more deliberate. And you've certainly mastered that, Ed, with the numerous episodes that you've done. But how do you do an outreach so that you're capturing the right audience and helping them in the way that you really wish to? I have started a coaching practice as well, and that gives me another opportunity to help others bring more of their true selves to work and to excel in a way that is meaningful to them. So that's always been a hallmark. Now I'm just not making decisions about large investments and benefit plans or executive compensation or anything like that.
Let's talk about this rage right now. Of course, it's all, COVID and the pandemic and reactions to all of that has changed everything in companies, in how employees feel about the boss and about their own life, and the kids driving them crazy because of fight for bandwidth and FaceTime on the computers. And it's nuts. So let's talk about well-being, this hot phrase now, okay? Well-being at home, work from anywhere well-being, working from home, and what does that mean? And how does a CHRO, how should they think about that today? And number one. And number two, are they the CEO whisperer now? Because the CEO's got, well, how are we going to make money? How are we going to capture what's the boom that's going on now in America, the V-shaped thing that President Trump talked about? He's I think he's a crazy guy, but he did some really good things, and it's too bad that it's all fogged over because of the craziness during that era. So the calmness now is allowing, in my view, and this is not political, it's business. The calmness is allowing business people to slow down and think about what is really important, and people are important. Mental health of the employees. How are they going to be productive if they're overwhelmed with all this personal stuff going on? And how are they coming across to the boss on Zoom? This is nuts. So the well-being aspect in the workplace, could be anywhere. How does a CHRO, or how should somebody empower like that in the people side? And how does that relate to your book?
Okay. So I will say that HR leaders have always been the CEO whisperers, if you will. I think that good CHROs have really been connected well and thoughtfully with their CEOs, their head of legal, their head of finance, their CFOs. That partnership is really critically important to succeed in the role. But as it relates to well-being, first of all, I'm really concerned about it because we all know that people in general have situations that they're dealing with, whether it's I'll call it a mild addiction. I don't know if that's really a proper term, but, I'll call it manageable addictions that people have, whether it's to alcohol or drugs. They were working through those addictions in a way that got them to work in the morning, got them through the day, and then they could go home and do whatever it is that they do to self-medicate and then sort of start the cycle again. Now working from home all the time, those addictions, I'm certain, have taken on a stronger hold. And this is something that workplaces will have to deal with as people return to the office. And that's going to be a very concerning endeavor. Again, addiction has always been there, but I'm certain, going to be much more prevalent or visible when people come back to work. It's going to be a challenge. But well-being is really important. I'm loving that in general terms, we're talking more about mental health. That there was always such a stigma about
Right.
that, whether, even talking about anxiety or, OCD, for example, some of these things that can truly be
What is OCD?
obsessive compulsive disorder. So this can truly be debilitating for some people, and they've been working with these challenges. So to have some dialogue about it, and this started before COVID. I know certainly at the organization that I worked at, we were talking about mental health, for years prior to that, and how important it was going to be to the future health of our workforce. It couldn't continue to be overlooked. So it's really good that we're talking about mental health now. And, I think part of our well-being also, if we think about managing stress, I know back when I started working, in the late 70s, if you talked about being, quote, stressed out or anything, you kind of get an eye roll, or people would think, listen, you got to suck it up and you got to just get your work done. And now, I think that there is an understanding that people are really, truly impacted by the stresses in their lives. And now you think about the enormity of responsibility for parents who are working at home. You're teaching your children, you're, managing them during their day. You're trying to keep up with your Zoom meetings, and those don't feel overly personal. People are doing the best that they can. So, it is really important. And I think the way all of this ties to my book, and just to the CHROs and HR directors out there, I know how much you've been working on this. And I know not only during COVID, but prior to COVID. And, I have no doubt that you're going to, figure out exactly how to mitigate some of these really problematic elements of our workforce. Mindfulness, for example, that was something that we never talked about, say 20 years ago. And yet we all know that mindfulness certainly does have a place in our workplace. Think about just being a better listener. I just wrote a blog this morning or yesterday about being a better listener and the power of listening to what people are saying and having a conversation. Think about how productive you can be if you're actually willing to truly engage in a two-way conversation with someone, whether it's someone that you're trying to solve a problem with, someone that
Yeah.
reports to you, whatever it might be. So those are really wonderful things.
So isn't that required now by the leadership to listen, engage, feedback, that kind of thing?
Well, sure. I think it's always been required of leaders to do this. But the challenge is that we're all running with all of the busyness in our day. And so you hear a couple of sentences and you run with that, but you haven't really dug deeper. And, you and I talked about feedback last time when we talked back in April. And I would say, feedback has a very long way to go before it's actually effective. I think of feedback as being an opportunity to give advice and support. And some people still are working with the model of feedback means, get in line and suck it up and get your work done.
Excuse me, I'm coughing.
And I'll tell you, yeah, Ed, you're sounding a little, you okay?
Yeah, right. Getting tense here. So.
Yeah, but feedback is so important because, if you think about, it's not just an opportunity to tell somebody what they've done wrong, but it's also an opportunity to tell people what they've done right. And we still have a lot of leaders who think, listen, if I don't tell you that you're doing something wrong, just assume that you're doing just fine. So my book, going back to your question in terms of how does my book help? My book helps you, there are lots of elements in it, but as it relates to this particular component, I would say it helps you to think about your intention. What is your intention when you're engaging with other people? Whether, again, regardless of what your relationship is with them, if you just start that conversation with, I want to think about what my intention is here. I think it has the means to be a much more productive and fulfilling conversation and leads to better relationships, which are so important to working well.
So let me ask you a question about being a leader of people in the past. And, you probably never leave that role because it's in your blood. It's just that your situation has changed. So if you're charged with well-being or to enable it, not to create it, because that has to come from others, but isn't it true you're going to be more interested in a high performer and their life and what makes them tick, and whether it's Susie or John, or ish kebab or, whatever the person's is, how do you manage that as a people leader to talk with people who are not performing well and you're not sure what's going on with them, and do you really care? All you want them to do is pitch in and do their job. That's a tough question. I'm sorry, but how do you have, like Paul Falcone wrote all these books about having tough conversations and 2,600 phrases to use that have worked. But from your world, is there a universal way of doing things now? Your smile is easier if you're dealing with a hypo, and
Sure.
because you're dealing with somebody who's super bright and they got it, and they're on their way to something. And then the other two are just sort of present, apparently, and they're collecting the check and the benefits, and they're doing medium work.
Yeah.
Every organization has those.
Yeah. So, Ed, I believe that, it is a leader's job. It's the most important part of what they do to understand what motivates people and to get people on the right track. And as you said, not everybody is going to do that. I think, it's really important in organizations that when people don't perform well on a consistent basis, that, even after you've engaged with them to try to understand, and I think every employee deserves this, what's going on? How can I best support you? What do you need to succeed? Whatever those things are, those conversations, and those are all good questions that I would ask as someone's leader who wasn't performing well. But after a point in time, there is a time to let people go and wish them well. And, organizations, unfortunately, I think that some of the organizations I've worked at, we did that very well, managing poor performers, because you have to succeed as an organization, and you're only as good as some of your weakest links. So, I think having people understand what's expected, and you and I talked about performance management the last time we talked. I think organizations have such a long way to go in order to get that right. And sometimes some of your star performers, they're just a star performer then, but if they don't get supported in the way that they need, that's not sustainable for them either. And they either leave because they're not challenged appropriately, or they turn into mediocre performers because they want to rest on their laurels. So you always have to manage performance. And have to have a conversation. Again, what's my intention? My intention is to make sure that everyone on my team is performing to their best capability. And if that's not happening, then I have to have a frank conversation. And frankly, before that gets too bad, I want to have a conversation so I can interject some support to turn things around.
Well, thank you very much for that deep dive.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
So now that you had some time and you've had a series of talk show experiences,
Mhm.
what do you think the role of humor in all this is?
I think humor is really important. It's always been very important to me. And I think if you can have a good laugh every single day, no matter what it is that you're doing, boy, that sure makes things a lot easier. I used to have a boss back in the probably 90s, and we would tell one good dirty joke every single day, and and we would laugh. But and so I do think that humor is really important, and I think it just reminds us all not to take ourselves so seriously. We're all going to mess up about something, and I think even that's a really good opportunity is when you make a mistake. I had a young woman on my team, and she'd say, she made a mistake. She'd say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just blew that," but we talk about, okay, here's how you can do this more effectively next time and all of that. But she didn't take herself so darn seriously. So yes, you have to have fun. And I have enjoyed meeting so many of the podcasters and radio show hosts, because what I know for sure is that all of you are putting so much time and effort into bringing content to people that with the intention of helping others. And Ed, you do a terrific job doing this, and Paul behind the scenes, he's doing a great job as well. But that's what's so wonderful is when you meet people who do have that great intention. It's nice. It rubs off on me too, and it reinforces what I'm trying to do. So I appreciate all you do, Ed.
Well, thank you. So Paul Johnston and I have known each other since around 2010, and found each other at a place where he was through a mutual friend, World Talk Radio, and Paul was, I think, chief engineer. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. But World Talk Radio was the forerunner of podcasts. So in college, which is an eon ago, on a galaxy far away, I was the campus disc jockey, and I was also editor of the college paper, and that kind of thing. So I was always talking about stuff, and sometimes the dean would come by and say, "Shut up." We don't do that here. Maybe at Boston University or Harvard, but not here. And so, that kind of thing. So it was a learning experience. And then I was in front of the camera. I've been in advertising and PR since I was 15. So being in front of the camera is kind of a natural thing. But it's all mental in prep, like how I just, acting lessons to some extent, not to be a faker, but to how to simply just like express yourself, draws in audience more rather than just being a talking head, like a marionette. Right? Hello.
Right.
All right. So I have nothing against all the podcasters and Zoom TV hosts and all that. now because everyone has to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to see what's happening and the gravitation of guests and how the trend is up. So, I mean, just interesting this morning, like my 8 a.m., which was just before showtime here, I received a pitch from a public relations agency in New Orleans for one of their clients, who is this super dynamic lady who's blonde hair up to here, not Dolly Parton, but I mean, nicely coiffed, but dynamic. And
Mm-hmm.
she's been on ABC and NBC and Fox News, and she's a specialist in mergers and acquisitions. I said, oh, okay, yes, I'd be willing to have this person on a talk show in June or July.
Mm-hmm.
But we've never done this topic before, so let's talk about this first so we can frame it right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the setup. Now, transferring that show business kind of approach, which is really nothing more than executive business management, and applying it to this kind of thing where we're talking about staffers in an organization that has the money and the wherewithal to have someone like you as a CHRO, that organization that would have you or someone like you in that position has to have this kind of media training, because it's how to talk to a variety of people and
Mm-hmm.
and get the message across, not in a dictatorial way, but somehow is a we rather than I thou. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking too much. The show is about you.
No, no, no. I love it, Ed. And I didn't know all of that background for you. I never had media training, and so I'm sure it's blatantly obvious on the various presentations that I've been on. But I always wanted to actually do something like that. But I think at some point you have to, if this is important, it certainly was important for my book and to gain a following, that you
And
decide, well,
more important now than then.
yes, definitely more important now. Yes. So, and it's not my nature at all. I think I've said a million times, I'm an extreme introvert. I, but I truly, truly love people, and I enjoy engaging in conversation. So this format, I think, is really revolutionary in terms of people getting content, because I think what it says now is that the having a precision to podcast and media relations is all terrific, but sometimes we don't need that precision either. Sometimes we're just looking for something to listen to on the way to work. And and it's same with Zoom. Think about the old days. We used to have slides that were replaced inevitably by PowerPoint, but you'd have to take those slides to somebody to have those produced, and they would be beautiful. But my goodness, if they found a typo, it would cost hundreds of dollars to fix that one slide, that one typo in the one slide. So I think that this is the evolution that we're seeing now. People are less concerned about the precision and more concerned about, hey, can I get something fast that I can learn from and engage with that person? And I guess for somebody like me who isn't trained, I'm glad that that's how people are feeling.
Well, I have to tell you that I have recently had a talk show with Dr. David Weiss, who's in Toronto, and he's extremely well known, not only up there, but in business circles as a thinker and a doer and strategist and implementer. So one of the and this show has not yet been broadcast, but it will be later today or tonight. But so we did the recording a couple of weeks ago, and there were some glitches, and then we needed to redo, and then we had to figure out how to do it, and then we finally thought about how to do it, and So one of the things that he is talking about right now to corporate clients, and these are big time, for the most part, big time clients, is what's the role of the CEO in innovation? It could be on anything, but so he says, we all, not just CEOs, but we all have to unlearn things that we learned a year ago or two. And it's going to be very difficult because people have established themselves in whatever. And because of all the changes and challenges and competition, leaders have to unlearn the old ways and learn not to innovate because you can't. Young people are innovators. Now, some old people, like maybe not as old as me, but others, they can innovate. But the CEO's job is to make it okay to fail.
Right.
And to try new things. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Hey, let's adjust and tinker and redo and then splice together. And then if it doesn't work again, try it again. It's okay. But the whole process is exciting and not liberal or conservative, but it's a doer or die, you know?
Yeah.
And so what you're saying about how people are, and what the leadership is faced with now with people, they're afraid to get in the elevator to go up 4 stories, never mind 25 stories. Okay, are they going to walk up all those stairs? And are the stairways clean if they're going to do that? Are they bright? Are they safe? Are there blowers so people in close contact aren't trapped? Never mind being in an elevator, but if they're going to walk, maybe it's healthy to some extent. But and team building maybe, but is it safe? And then, okay, you're in the office. Okay, and then what? All right. How are people going to react? And is the boss going to require everybody to show proof, legitimate proof? They've got the vax. And if they're unable because of religious beliefs or allergies or they're pregnant or want to be, then it's probably not a good idea to get the vax. But they certainly have alternative RPA, whatever they call them, antibody stuff that is being used. So how are leaders and the CHROs talk about reawakening and authenticity? Now's the time when you guys are absolutely needed more than the CEO.
Yeah. Having conversations with people, I think, is really important. I think, emphasizing the importance not only of taking care of your own health, but taking care of the health of those that for which you come in contact, I think is so important. I don't know where we're going to land on whether it's going to be required in the workplace or not. And I guess right now, I'm glad I don't have to make that decision one way or another because it's a tough one. But, I think at the heart of it, what we can go back to is with intention. And that is, we've always had the intention that we want to make our workplaces as safe as possible because safety is important. And, we dealt with it, as it relates to conceal and carry. We've dealt with it on a number of other, matters. So there will be a good innovative solution, I am sure, but it is a tough one for sure. And, unfortunately at my last organization, we lost an employee who was he was in HR, but he was in a New York office at the time, but passed away due to COVID. And it was heartbreaking to attend this gentleman's wake. We did it virtually, but it was a heartbreaking situation. And so, nobody wants to have thought that they somehow contributed to someone's, ultimate demise. So it's a lot to deal with. Again, this is why I really look at HR leaders really as dealing with way, way, way more important issues than sometimes they're given credit for. But I have no doubt that they'll come up with something that is workable for their organizations. But it really does start with, having authentic conversations with your employees about, not just saying we're mandating this, but explaining why you're mandating it or not. Giving people choices of what are those choices and being really clear about what they are, and having thoughtful, easy to understand communications and ongoing conversations about it, I think are certainly things that will be part of the mix.
Brilliant. Well, I think that you need to think about your next book, or it's like a reimagining of this current one, but gearing it exactly what you and I were just talking about right now.
Oh.
Gearing it to the CHRO and the role they have to play now as a people leader.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. And
the CEOs are sort of like process leaders, but the CHROs are the actual doers.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So I was reading somewhere that there's going to be a tsunami of quitting and job changes. Well, is it because of this or what? Who knows?
Well, yeah. I mean, I do think that this has been a time of a lot of self-reflection, and people have, for example, had dinner with their families or their loved ones or significant others, and they've realized, gosh, that's really important for me to be at home at dinner. Or they've lost their jobs. I mean, we've had, hundreds of thousands of people in this situation, and they say, okay, I need to take a different turn in my career, do something totally different that's more personally fulfilling. Because I think what people have recognized is that, you're always somewhat vulnerable. There's no guarantee of a job forever. And so it does mean that you have to take some ownership of your career and your decisions. And I think people are doing just that. I do think that employees will be vocalizing what it is that they expect in terms of the employer's portion of the contract, if you will. And employers are going to have to listen because I do think it's definitely going to be, a different time. And I think it's good because I think that, responsive organizations who value their employees will be leading retention matters and employee and talent acquisition will be a lot more aggressive and assertive because they'll know that the marketplace is being flooded with, potentially great employees. So, I think it's a good thing, and we'll see how it shakes out.
Thanks for being our guest again on Global
Thanks.
TV Talk Show. Vicki, please come back in say another month or two and let's see how the process is evolving. Because we can also
we'll know more.
Comment on what's been going on out there.
That's right.
Because the country's opening up and businesses are opening. They're trying to figure out what to do. I'm sure you saw that thing yesterday by the leader of Microsoft saying, well, they've been rethinking everything and hybrid work is here to stay.
You bet.
And we're going to have to be more creative. Everyone would need to be more creative in order to maximize the benefit of that. And so the thinking is still going on, he was saying. Yeah. So we've picked that up with permission, and we have published it in our newsroom magazine. With the link to further and all that. So it's really interesting. If you want me to send it over to you, I'll be glad.
That'd be great. Yeah, no, that'd be great. And I do subscribe to your podcast here. So cool. That's good to keep in touch that way too.
So here's an idea. I want you to come back and be on a show with me, sort of as a co-host or integral partner. And let's find one or two additional CHROs, either current or former, doesn't matter who or where in the world. And let's let's have this discussion about, okay, hybrid work, how's it going to work?
That'd be great fun.
Okay, and let's do it, say, I don't know, in July.
Okay,
Like right after the 4th.
great.
Thanks for doing this, Vicki, and everybody
Thank
out
you.
there, go to Vicki Znavor's LinkedIn page. You see her name right there, and that's how you could find her. Thank you again for being on Global TV.
Thanks, Ed.
Ciao.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.